Hello, and welcome to A Very Human Experience, where we dive deep into the philosophy behind movies and TV shows. Today, we're exploring a tough ethical dilemma from Naoki Urasawa's Monster. Let's discuss Dr. Tenma's decision not to kill Johann Liebert. This choice touches on the broader debate over capital punishment and asks, when, if ever, is it justified to take a life in the name of preventing future harm? In our discussion, we'll look at famous and some lesser-known philosophers' writings on the subject and examine whether there's any empirical evidence to support their claims. In Monster, Dr. Tenma, a dedicated neurosurgeon, saves Johann's life as a child, only to later realize that Johann has evolved into a remorseless manipulator and killer. At a critical juncture, Tenma faces the ultimate moral dilemma. Should he kill Johann to stop the cycle of violence, or should he uphold the sanctity of life no matter the cost? On one hand, killing Johann might seem like the most pragmatic way to prevent further atrocities. On the other hand, doing so would mean becoming the very arbiter of life and death, a role that challenges the core ethical principle of respecting every human being's dignity. Let's start by looking at the arguments in favor of Tenma's decision not to kill Johann. As very brief recap of the entire series. The antagonist, Johann, believes there's no true form of unconditional love. He rejects the idea that people only have value if they can provide you with love, money, or power. This type of thinking leads him to believe that if no one is truly loved unconditionally, then love is hollow and meaningless, making relationships, morals, and life also meaningless. He thinks the reason people don't go around murdering other people is for selfish reasons, that no form of love is truly altruistic, and everything is therefore meaningless, whereas Dr. Tenma believes that all people deserve love and care, regardless of status, age, or utility. He truly believes that every life is worth saving. At the climax of the story, Johann organizes his own death at the hands of Dr. Tenma. Johann pushes Dr. Tenma to kill him, thereby proving his point with his own death that the only reason people let other people live is if they provide something in return, in this case, guaranteed safety. However, Dr. Tenma rejects Johann's nihilism. Dr. Tenma creates his own meaning through his choices and actions in the face of a true nihilism. That even though the universe might be devoid of inherent meaning, it is up to each individual to not despair or resign and embrace the opportunity to define and live a life of personal significance. Indeed, it seems towards the very end of the series, Dr. Tenma adopts Jean-Paul Sartre's existentialism. Sartre posited that human beings are condemned to be free, meaning that we must create our own meaning and value in life. However, this freedom also comes with responsibility. He argued that we should love and care for others because, in a sense, our humanity is tied to the humanity of others. We define ourselves by how we relate to them. Honestly, watching this series was the closest I ever came to questioning my belief in capital punishment. I used to think that, for the safety of others who could be hurt at the hand of an obviously guilty murderer, that we must remove this person from society. This will give at least some peace of mind to the victim's family. But then, why should I have to pay taxes to keep someone alive that obviously doesn't value the life of others? This doesn't seem fair. Immanuel Kant argues that justice is based on the principle of retribution, which states that punishment must be proportionate to the crime. In the Metaphysics of Morals, Kant argues, if he has committed murder, he must die. There is no juridical substitute or surrogate that can be given or taken for the satisfaction of justice. A murderer has already forfeited their humanity by violating the moral law. By taking another's life unjustly, they essentially place themselves outside the moral community and must face proportional consequences. To keep a murderer alive would be unjust because it would fail to hold them fully accountable for their actions. This perspective views the death penalty as a moral necessity rather than just an option, and so I would strongly disagree with Dr. Tenma's decision. While enlightenment and philosophical reconciliation might have been achieved for both Dr. Tenma and probably Johann, justice was not served. Their perception and reconciliation is too personal and subjective to the narrative. Countless victims, suffering, and death was brought about by Johann. Don't the victims and the victim's family deserve to know why they suffered? But does that mean that we should only love someone for what they can conditionally give back to us? I would argue that giving love to someone because they provide love or money or power doesn't detract from the times I love that same person when they don't provide those things. That love can be more complex than the dichotomy of conditional and unconditional, and that love falls under the umbrella of roles and responsibility. I would go further to argue that duty and responsibility supersede conditional, unconditional love. While we should love our fellow men as much as we freely can, we should not do it at the expense of others, especially those within our realm of responsibility. Our responsibility should first be familial, then communal, and then externally towards strangers. We can't help others until we are in a position to do so without putting those under our umbrella of responsibility at risk of emotional, physical, or spiritual danger. Philosopher Alasdair MacIntyre stated, "A person is what he or she is because of the family in which he or she was raised, the traditions into which he or she was born, and the historical and social circumstances in which he or she is situated. To see oneself as a part of this larger whole is to recognize that one's life is not only one's own, but that one's obligations to others are rooted in these social roles and relationships." Dr. Tenma's inaction might be seen as indirectly enabling continued evil. By sparing Johann, Dr. Tenma allows a dangerous individual to live and possibly to commit more harm, putting the larger societal whole at risk. Some philosophers argue that there is a moral responsibility to stop ongoing harm, even if that means taking an extreme measure like capital punishment. And I understand the theme of breaking the cycle of hatred and violence. The series explores how cycles of violence and trauma perpetuate evil. Many characters in Monster become consumed by vengeance, but Tenma chooses a different path. By sparing Johann, he symbolically breaks that cycle, proving that morality and compassion can prevail. But again, this is only based on the subjective perception of the narrative, as well as the perception of Dr. Tenma and Johann. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this analysis, please like and subscribe for more philosophical deep dives into movies and TV shows. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Tenma's decision was justified, or do you think he should have made a different choice?